right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. You have to go back to the 2000 Major League Baseball season to find the last time that we had a repeat winner in the World Series. And that trend is going to continue for at least one more year. The Atlanta Braves entered this postseason with high hopes to repeat as World Series champions. But after winning 100 games, 101 games in the regular season, the Braves could not overcome the red hot Philadelphia Phillies in the divisional round. Now, through free agency, the luxury tax, and the extended postseason, MLB has gotten what they've wanted, which is parity. And honestly, parity it goes further than just Major League Baseball. We see it in the NFL. As you got to go back to the New England Patriots of 2004 being able to be repeat champions. The Tampa Bay Lightning did do it recently in the NHL, came close to being a three-peat. Then, of course, several years ago, did see the Golden State Warriors repeat in the NBA, but it is so difficult to do, especially with baseball right now, that the way that things are going. And honestly, that's the way that the owners want it. It's one of those for me that with what we're seeing right now in baseball, unless a team is focused on tanking heading into the season, they have a shot because now that additional wild card changes things because teams are less likely to part with guys at the trade deadline. Also, with the luxury tax and teams having to worry about that, they have to question, do they keep a guy, after a championship run sometimes? We've seen it. And you think back to the Kansas City Royals of 2015. They got two consecutive World Series. They won it in 2015, but not too long after that, that team was dismantled. The same thing can be said about the 2016 Cubs. And for all of the big spending that the Dodgers have done, over the past 10 years or so, they got to the Fall Classic in both 2017 and 2018. They lost. They got back in 2020 and won. But spending the money is not a guarantee. And on the flip side, we saw the Philadelphia Phillies. They were not playing good down the stretch. If you go back, they got swept by the Cubs. They got that final wild card spot. It looked like they were dead in the water in game number one of the wild card round against St. Louis. They rallied. And then since then, the Phillies Express has not slowed down and they're headed to the LCS. And it's a scenario where both the Mets and Braves won 101 games coming out of that NL East this year. And neither one of them are going to be in the National League Championship Series. It's one of those where, just because you win 100 games or more in the regular season does not, guarantee postseason success. We've seen both the Braves and Mets go home so far. They won more than 100 games. The Dodgers are facing elimination as we speak. The Houston Astros are the only team that still has a solid chance to advance on after winning 100 games. But some people are going to say, well, what, the postseason is a crapshoot. Some people want to disagree with that. Some people want to agree. That's fine. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's all about getting hot. We saw the Braves get hot, but more importantly, somewhat healthy coming down the stretch last year, and it catapulted them. And we've seen several teams over the years, get hot and make runs to the World Series. The 2015 Mets, yes, they lost in the Fall Classic, but coming down that stretch over that last month or so of the season and into the playoffs, they were world beaters. We saw it about 15 years ago with the Colorado Rockies. They got on that crazy stretch before losing to Boston in the World Series. But nonetheless, this is the name of the game right now. And for these Phillies, all of the question marks that they had about them coming into this postseason, they've answered. The Phillies bullpen was shaky at times during the regular season. It's now become a strength. The Phillies defense was shaky at times during the regular season. Now it's become a strength. And then the strengths of the Atlanta Braves, most notably their starting pitching, was not the case throughout this series. I mean, you go back to game number one, Philly jumped all over Max Fried early and won that game 7-6. You go back to game number three yesterday. Spencer Strider, he wasn't healthy out there, and the Phillies they took advantage of it, as they routed Atlanta 9-1. And then today, Charlie Morton got hit on the elbow. He was done, and then this Phillies offense just teed off on this Braves bullpen. But make no mistake about it, I said heading into the series, I did pick the Braves to win, but I did say that the Phillies were not going to be afraid of the Braves. They played each other 19 times this season, and Philly was 8-11. It's not like it's a 15-4 or 16-3, slate in favor of Atlanta, kind of like what we've seen, with the Dodgers, this year over the Padres. But nonetheless, Philly was like right in a lot of those games. So there really wasn't a lot of, wiggle room, so to speak, if you will, in that category. And basically, everything that Atlanta can do, Philly has already seen. Some people are going to say, well, did Atlanta use up all of their steam trying to catch the New York Mets? Well, you can make the argument for that. There's also going to be some people that are asked, did the additional rest time hurt the Braves? You know what? Possibility. But at the end of the day, you still got to go out there and play. This is what was agreed upon by everybody. So at the end of the day, you know what? It is what it is. But this current Braves roster has never seen Citizens Bank Park like it was this weekend. Because if you think about it, if you're on the Braves currently, you don't remember when Citizens Bank Park was very noisy and boisterous a little bit more than 10 years ago when the Phillies were consistently dominating the National League East. And of course, that team got old, and this has been a rebuild for Philly, most notably through free agency. But nonetheless, you know what? The Philadelphia sports fans, they'll come out and support when their teams are winning. And of course, the fans at Citizens Bank got a treat today. And of course, a lot of those people will be in attendance tomorrow night at Lincoln Financial Field when the Eagles host the Dallas Cowboys. But nonetheless, getting back to this series, the Braves simply ran into the buzzsaw. The Phillies are hot. And again, I can't harp on this enough. All of the weaknesses of the Phillies throughout the regular season are now strengths. Now, for the Braves, this team isn't going anywhere from the standpoint that, their general manager, Alex Anthopoulos, has done a tremendous job in locking up a lot of these young players to extension. So the Braves are going to be around for quite some time. Dansby Swanson and Kenley Jansen are really the only big free agents that you have to look for on this team. It's going to be interesting to see if the Braves are going to keep Swanson, or is there going to be a team that's going to make him an offer that he cannot refuse in free agency. We got to wait and see. For the Phillies, they definitely want to keep the momentum going. Now they get to sit back and see whether it's going to be the Padres or whether it's going to be the Dodgers that they'll be taking on in the National League Championship Series. But make no mistake about it, one way or another, Philly is going to be catching a flight out to the West Coast soon. Will it be to San Diego or will it be to LAX? We got to wait and see. But for the Braves, the bottom line is tough way for your season to end. But you know what? It's the nature of the beast. Like I always say, 12 teams enter this postseason, but only one is going to finish on a high note. The Braves did it last year, but this time, 2022 for them was a lot different than 2021. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.